Hello, everybody. I'm H3 Bomb. I'm wearing a button-up shirt, a lab coat, and some glasses. The whole ensemble just screams, "This guy knows his stuff."
Now that I've established that I'm intelligent, let me sit here in front of this generic backdrop and teach you stuff. First, let me begin by saying the word VAERS. What's that, you say? Well, I'm glad you asked. VAERS is an acronym that stands for Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Alright, let me actually get serious, because this is truly meant to be an educational video. I'm going to be quoting from vaers.hhs.gov in the About section of the website. To begin, I'm going to say that this system was established in 1990. It is a national early warning system to detect possible safety problems in U.S. licensed vaccines. The website is co-managed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, aka CDC, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. Everyone knows those two organizations are super trustworthy. That was a joke. Being sarcastic. Okay, anyways. So, VAERS accepts and analyzes reports of adverse events, which are possible side effects after a person has received a vaccination. Anyone can report an adverse event to VAERS. Healthcare professionals are required to report certain adverse events, and vaccine manufacturers are required to report all adverse events that come to their attention. The website has a disclaimer. VAERS is a passive reporting system, meaning it relies on individuals to send in reports of their experiences to CDC and FDA. It is not designed to determine if a vaccine caused a health problem. And that's important because people might file reports on there and it's not legitimate. There's no 100% proof that the injuries reported were caused by the vaccines. It just might be coincidental. However, that's not the end of that disclaimer part of the website. As a side note, I wanted to say that though. People try to use the disclaimer on the VAERS website to discredit or smear it as unreliable data. But the next part of the quote says, VAERS is especially useful for detecting unusual or unexpected patterns of adverse event reporting that might indicate a possible safety problem with a vaccine. Alright. In another section of the website, in the FAQ section, there's another quote that says, "The reporting requirements for COVID-19 vaccines are the same for those authorized under emergency use or fully approved. Healthcare providers who administer COVID-19 vaccines are required by law." The website is emphasizing the fact that healthcare providers, especially those facilities in the business of administering the vaccines, have a lawful duty and obligation to report adverse events. Okay? It's a federal law. It's a .gov website. Alright. I want to ask you viewers, do your local hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, healthcare departments enforce VAERS reporting? Do they enforce it as policy in their facilities? If they do, then great. That means those facilities have policies that are transparent. They have nothing to hide from the people. Okay? And it means they want to be thorough about these vaccines and potential harm that they might cause. Every single medication has a side effect. Every single thing you put in your body has a side effect. Anybody who says otherwise is lying to you, whether it be minor or major. Okay. If the local facilities around you are not enforcing VAERS reporting as policy, why in the world are you putting your lives in their hands? Your lives, your family's lives. You're trusting them to administer vaccines to you if it's not policy for their personnel, their doctors, their nurses, their pharmacists, to learn how to use the VAERS website. I am a medical professional myself. I had never in my life heard of VAERS, and I've been a medical professional for 12 years. I'd never heard of VAERS until about 4 or 5 months ago. That should alarm you. I know at least a handful of people that I asked over the past 3 months who had also never heard of VAERS. That should alarm you a lot more. Again, let me reiterate. The website says it's required by law for healthcare professionals to report it. Okay? If your facilities are not enforcing VAERS reporting, or not enforcing some kind of formal training of clinicians and how to report and what to report to VAERS, then they very well might be violating or being out of compliance with the CDC guideline, or again, it says it's required by law. Okay, so what should be reported? Of course, administration errors. If a nurse, pharmacist, whoever gives the medication in the wrong way, wrong dose, wrong route, wrong site, etc., that's common sense. But these are the things that must be reported to VAERS. Serious adverse events per FDA are defined as death, a life-threatening adverse event, so almost death, any inpatient hospitalization or prolongation of existing hospitalization. So if someone gets a vaccine and they're hospitalized for whatever random reason, if they're hospitalized within a certain time frame, it should be reported. A persistent or significant incapacity or substantial disruption of the ability to conduct normal life functions. A congenital anomaly/birth defect. An important medical event that, based on appropriate medical judgment, may jeopardize the individual and may require medical or surgical intervention to prevent one of the outcomes listed above. Any cases of multi-system inflammatory syndrome. All right, one more thing that definitely should be reported. If shortly after vaccination from one of the COVID-19 vaccines, a person catches COVID resulting in hospitalization, that has to be reported. That's on the website. Okay. Now those are all must reports. But the website does say healthcare providers are encouraged to report to VAERS any additional clinically significant adverse events following vaccination, even if they're not sure whether the vaccination caused the event. So technically, what that means is the site itself is actually encouraging over-reporting as opposed to under-reporting. That makes logical sense. You would rather them report on VAERS too much and let the people who run VAERS and monitor it comb through the reports and eliminate the ones that don't actually seem legitimate, or hopefully their CDC and FDA are following up on these reports. I really hope they are, contacting the people making them. But because VAERS is an early warning system, if it's not being used by your local healthcare providers, your local healthcare facilities, if it's not being used, how can it detect safety signals throughout the nation? I encourage every single one of you to question your local healthcare facilities. Find out if it's policy. Okay? So, like I said, over-reporting would be better than under-reporting. Common sense should tell you why under-reporting would be a problem, but there are a handful of studies. People have heard of the famous Harvard study that was done years ago that proves that the vaccine adverse event reporting system is severely under-reporting adverse events. It has been for years. I, in fact, have a handful of studies that I plan to speak on in a follow-up video. Sorry about my voice, kind of losing it today. Many people aim to discredit the VAERS site because of the disclaimer that's on it about it not confirming the link between adverse events and vaccines. The idea is they try to use the disclaimer to make it seem like people using VAERS are a bunch of yahoos that are filing false reports on the site. But let me offer a couple counterpoints to that silly claim. Excuse me. If you go to the site and click on Report an Adverse Event, it comes with a warning label which reads, knowingly filing a false VAERS report is a violation of federal law, 18 U.S. Code 1001. It's punishable by fine and imprisonment. This quote is repeated multiple times throughout the reporting steps when you make a report. I filed a handful myself, and I know this. The warning itself is meant to be a deterrent to prevent people from lying. Okay? Now let me offer just some small statistics from healthypeople.gov 2020. According to that website, there's a page about VAERS. It says, the majority of VAERS reports are sent in by vaccine manufacturers, 37%, and healthcare providers, 36%. The remaining reports are obtained from state immunization programs, 10%. Vaccine recipients, so patients or their family members, only account for 7%, and other sources 10%. That means that a total of 83% of VAERS reports that do make it to the site are coming from professional sources. These aren't a bunch of idiots making these reports. These are educated people. So, anybody who's trying to discredit you for quoting VAERS numbers, don't let them gaslight you. Go to a site called openvaers.com. That's a separate site. It's not run by any government organization. It is a project developed by a small team of people with vaccine injuries who have children with vaccine injuries. We do not accept donations or solicit fees. There is zero monetization of this site. It is purely created in order to help others browse the VAERS records and to identify the reported signals that may otherwise get missed. So it's run by a group of so-called vaccine injured people. You might ask that. Wouldn't that mean they're biased? Yes, they most likely are. If they've been injured by vaccines, there's some bias. Everybody has bias. And it's time for us all to stop pretending like there isn't bias even in science. There is bias almost everywhere you go, especially in the media. So, do yourself a favor, check out OpenVAERS. Check out the statistics of the COVID-19 vaccines. I pray that you do, and I pray that you stay woke so you don't go broke. Okay, that was a terrible joke. Peace.